Absolutely. Like
Sure.
we know that velo, like you're not going to throw 56 with a asterisk. Actually, I shouldn't say never, but you're very rarely going to throw 56 and go pitch at the SEC level unless you got some weird, funky off speed stuff.
Yeah,
So
you got some
there,
funky stuff, right?
yeah, there could be an exception, but you're very rarely. So if that's your goal, then we know what scales is yes, your underlying velo needs to go up, and we're going to look at ways to do that. But then you hit these thresholds, and this is why things are data driven and data informed decisions, which is nuance. You know, the most obvious example that we have seen is the backsman pitch. We've talked about it
Right.
in a variety of ways, but it's like someone has a rise ball, they throw it 60, they throw their fastball 67, and then everyone is convinced you need to throw that rise ball harder. So, what we know, and there's a whole bunch of components that go into this. One, we know that that pitcher to keep that spin is not going to be able to get it close to her max. So we're talking about a jump that maybe you could make of like 2, 3 miles per hour. So let's say she threw it at 58 and you're like, we need to get that closer. We need to get it at 62. What we've seen is a 62-mile-an-hour version of that pitch is not good. It doesn't
Mm-mm. It's
play at the next
worse.
level. And so
Yeah.
in reality, the data tells us on that particular pitch, we might want to take some speed off or we might want to keep it where it is. And so the data tells us that. Now, was there a time 5 years ago where we might have told that pitcher the same thing? Like, this doesn't seem
Sure.
right. You can't be throwing a 56-mile-an-hour pitch and a 67-mile-an-hour pitch. Like, we got to get this pitch harder. Like, it can't live in here. But that's why you keep getting information of what works. And like I said, it's why in-game data is so valuable because now the loop can be so tight of what is actually working at this next level. And so, for instance, where our live outcomes are going is if I put data in there and I see a pitcher had a 20% whiff rate on her changeup. What we want to know is like that seems you could just say that needs to go up. You have to, but that would be made up. And so what we want to understand
It's
is that
arbitrary.
good or bad? Is
Right.
20% good or bad compared to the data we have right now? And that is how you keep evolving and understanding things. So it's like, if that is, I give the example all the times. I think it's such an obvious one, but there was a time period where MLB changed, where every single person threw a two seam fastball low and out, that we were just convinced like that's what you throw to be successful. You throw that 95 or whatever. And when they actually started looking at in game data and they had it, they realized that pitch actually got hit. And so they started switching people to throw four seam fastballs and to kind of change how they use that. And that pitch went way down in how much they used it. Now I think it's actually flipping a little bit, because then the swings evolved to that. And now we just keep looking at the data and changing what people throw. And I
Right.
think that's the fun part of data. So I just
That's
think,
the battle of offense and defense. I mean,
yeah,
that's this, we keep saying like, oh, they're in this loop, but it's more of an upward spiral. It's like whenever pitching makes a change, hitting makes a change. Whenever hitting makes a change, pitching makes a change. And then the entire game
right.
grows. That's
Yeah.
that's the war of offense and defense. And it's
Yeah.
to me, it's beautiful. It's like
Right.
as a former pitcher, I'm like always, even when I look at hitting data, I'm like, how am I going to exploit that? How am I going to,
Right.
throw her as a pitcher? Because that's where my brain is wired. And
Yeah.
I think like that's the beauty of player development is you constantly have these two sides of this battle that you get to play off each other and figure out what works, see how it plays out on the battlefield. And
Yeah.
like that's how the game evolves.
Yeah.